Hello, in our last video, we learned how to use the tablet method to summarize the relationship between two variables. And we are focusing on the cross tabulation, and we also learned the conversion, the transform and the cross tabulation, including the column and the row percentage cross tabulation. And in this video, we're actually going to focus on the graphical display. So how can you use a beautiful charts to help you to understand relationship between two variables? So in this video, after this video, you're actually gonna learn how to use Excel to generate this graphical display for the relationship. So let's look at what we're gonna learn. So in most cases, a graphical display is more useful than a table for recognizing the pattern and the trend. And the displaying the data in a creative way can lead to a powerful insights. And then later I will show you a few examples and you will see, oh, it's definitely more obvious than the cross tabulation. And however, if you're thinking to use the graphical display, we're going to learn pretty soon, you have to understand the limitation of this method. So this method is called a scatter diagram with the trend lines. So they're useful in exploring the relationship between two variables. However, we do have the limitation. So the big limitation for this method is you have to make sure both variables are quantitative data. If you think about the previous method, cross tabulation, it doesn't matter one is quantitative, one is categorical. You always can use cross tabulation to help you identify the relationship. However, if you are thinking to use this as scatter diagram, you have to make sure both variables are quantitative. Both variables are quantitative. And so what we would, if we don't have Excel, if you try to manually developing this scatter diagram, what happens is one variable is showing on the horizontal axis and the other variable is showing on the vertical axis. And the general pattern of the plots pointing suggests the overall relationship between the variables. And so the trend line provides an approximation of the relationship. So as I said, in this video, we focus on what is method look like and how we interpret it. And after this video, you will learn how to use Excel to generate this scatter diagram. So in general speaking, we will find four relationships. So four relationships. So based on the trend line. So in this diagram, what you see, we call it a positive relationship. So the positive relationship is an upward trend line. So the upward trend line. Since my background is economics, and I believe all of you guys have already taken either microeconomics or macroeconomics. And so look at this trend line. Let's see, the Y is representing P and X is representing the quantity. So what kind of curve will look like this trend line? Yes, so that's supply curve. So supply curve is indicating the price and the quantity have this kind of positive relationship. So how do you interpret a positive relationship? So what does this positive relationship really means? So that means when X variable go up and the Y variable's value also go up. And when X value go down and the Y value also go down. So this is the meaning of the positive relationship. That means both variables will moving towards the same direction. So if you think about if this is a supply curve, so when the quantity go up and then price will go up, or the price go up, the quantity go up. So because it's more profitable for people to make more products. So as one variable increasing, another variable will be increasing. So when the price go down, the quantity supply will go down as well because the profit margin will go down. So that gives a business less incentive to produce more, right? So this is called a positive relationship. And the second relationship we will identify from your scatter diagram is like this. So your trend line is downward. So when you see the downward trend line, so that means the XY has a negative relationship. So again, let's replace Y by P and X by Q. So what kind of curve look like this downward curve in your economic class? Yes, that's demand. Okay, so what does this negative relationship really mean? So that means when one variable go down, another variable will go up. So, or when one variable go up, another variable will go down. So this negative relationship really means is x and y, they are moving towards in the opposite direction. So opposite direction. So think about your demand curve. So when the price go up, the product get more expensive. Consumer cannot not a lot of consumer can afford it anymore. Therefore, the quantity demand will go down. So price up, demand go down. And when the price go down, it gets cheaper and more people can afford it. The quantity for sale or quantity needed will go up, right? So they're always moving the opposite direction. So this kind of relationship is called a negative relationship. So when you work on this, your homework, I hope you are, my expectation that you are not only able to identify positive and negative relationship, but also you can understand what this relationship really means. Just very simple. Positive relationship means both variable moving towards the same direction, and negative relationship means one variable decrease, another variable go up, one variable go up, another go down. So they are moving in the opposite direction. So this is a second possible pattern you might see from your scatter diagram. And the last pattern you will see is like this. So your trend line will be like a horizontal line, very close to a horizontal line. It might not be perfect horizontal line because we are dealing with the real world data. You will really rarely to see a perfect horizontal line. But if it's very close to a horizontal line, we call it no apparent relationship. No apparent relationship. How to understand this no apparent relationship. So look at this case. So when the x variable increasing, so from here to here, look, the value for y on the trend line. So the value corresponding to the trend line is never changed. So no matter how x change, y will not change. So therefore we call the no apparent relationship because y is not affected by x. But however, pay attention on the word we're using. We call it apparently. We didn't say no relationship. Why? The reason because keep in mind that when we are trying to find relationship, it really depends on the data we collected. And so it's based on the data we find this kind of horizontal line. They might still have a kind of relationship, maybe because the way we collect data, we cannot base on the data to find relationship. So you cannot conclude saying no relationship. It's called no apparent relationship because it's conditional on how you collect the data. And even the relationship is very, very weak, they still have some kind of relationship, but it's just not obvious. So therefore, we call it a no apparent relationship. And so this is the three possible pattern you will see in your scatter diagram, and also how you should interpret it. So now I will show you an example, and then we can move on to our Excel in next video. So the Panthers football team is interested in investigating the relationship if any interception made and a point is scored. So obviously they have two variables. Oops. So one is the number of the interceptions, one is the number of the points scored. So you can notice that both x and y are quantitative data. Therefore, we can use a scatter diagram to help us to understand the relationship between the number of the interception and the number of the points scored. So I'll show you the answer based on these two columns of data. So based on the two column data, and I developed this scatter diagram with a trend line. So notice the vertical axis, make sure when you generate scatter diagram, you have to properly label your vertical axis and the horizontal axis because you want to make sure people understand what kind of relationship you are looking for, what are the variables. So the vertical axis is number of the points scored, and the horizontal axis is number of the interception. So after you developing this scatter diagram with a trend line, and you can identify the relationship, right? What kind of relationship between these two variables? Yes, it is positive relationship. But if you only say a positive relationship, it's not good enough. Keep in mind, not everybody learns statistics. Your job is to help people to understand relationship. If you only talk about positive relationship, if people have no idea about statistics, they still don't understand what positive relationship means. You actually have to go further to interpret what this means. So that means if we found a positive relationship between the number of intersection and the number of the point score, which means the higher the number of intersection, the more likely the number of the point score will go up, right? So let's see the answer. So the high points scored are associated with a higher number of the intersection. So the relationship is not perfect, and all plus points in the scatter are not on the straight line. So that's always the case. In the real world, you won't be able to find a situation that all the scatter is on the trend line. It always like a scatter around that trend line. So this is the end of the graphical summarization.